Hey, it's Madison Chase. It's yes or no. It's your entertainment source or news option. And I did the story, Steph Z and I just did a story about Colin Kaepernick. That's a hard name to say. Kaepernick. He decided to sit down at a Green Bay, Wisconsin game and a 49ers game. And Steph and I just did a story. So this is part two because an ex-teammate who plays for the Vikings, his name is Alex Boone, he rips Colin apart and says that it's a lack of respect because he obviously has family members who served in the Army. So I invited a couple of people to do like a Q&A. So this is going to be my first time actually trying this. So I'll read his story, but then I also want to hear your opinion. Maybe some people will chime in and ask questions or not. I'm not really sure. But I don't understand. You guys can help me answer this question. Why is it that when someone stands up for something, it means that they're against another thing? So is the media doing that, or is it us? Do we do that? If I say I like coffee, does that mean I hate green tea because I say I like coffee? Does that mean because I actually have a dog and I love my dog, does that mean I hate cats? Does that mean if I prefer using Windex instead of vinegar and water to clean my windows, does that mean I hate vinegar and water? Like, I don't understand it. So Alex Boone is basically saying, I'm going to read you his story. He chooses his words very carefully, noting he'd been warned the question was coming. But Boone, the Minnesota Vikings veteran guard, made abundantly clear Sunday he was upset by former San Francisco 49ers teammate Colin Kaepernick's recent decision not to stand for the Star-Spangled Banner. And the thing is, before I even looked up Alex Boone, and I said, I bet you he's not African-American or he's not a person of color. Because it seems to be an issue with people who are not people of color, that they have an issue that people are talking about something that happened 200 years ago that's still continuing to be a byproduct of what happened 200 years ago. And by not really having the conversation, what are you really upset about? Are you upset that he didn't stand, but you're not looking at the big picture, which is he didn't stand not because he's not respecting people who decided to fight for this country, but you cannot look at what happened in history 200 years ago and reading the story that John Schwartz actually wrote. And I think it's easy for people to just look at what he did and not look at why he did it. So he said, it's hard for me because my brother was a Marine and he lost a lot of friends over there. Boone told USA Today Sports. The flag obviously gives Kaepernick the right to do whatever he wants. I understand it. At the same time, you should have some respect for people who serve, especially people that lost their lives to protect our freedom. And one thing I do know that Colin Kaepernick is not backing down, and he made a tweet and said that basically he's going to continue to not stand up for the national anthem. But I don't know if it's the media. So is it the media that is actually perpetuating this thing, or by Colin not standing up for the national anthem doesn't mean that he's against people who actually fought for this country. But again, he's not talking about the people that fought for this country currently today when we were quote unquote not considered property. He's referring to the people who were not considered, me and my ancestors, who were not considered, we weren't considered people, we were considered property. So when you look at the history of what Colin and Muhammad Ali and athletes like that who are taking a stand for the injustice that continues to happen, and had we not had people like Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and Medgar Evers and Rosa Parks who didn't take a stand for what they believed is injustice and social injustice, Colin wouldn't be on the team. So you wouldn't have an opinion about whether or not he chooses to sit down. So Alex Boone, while I respect what you're saying in reference to your family members that have lost lives, we're talking about hundreds and probably millions of African Americans who will never know their names. We'll never know them because we don't know that part of our history. So while I respect your opinion and respect what you have to say, do your history, check your history and see what happened when the Star Spangled Banner was actually written. And that's not an attack on you and your family members. While I respect people who serve, I've had people to serve. And in America, we have a right to not agree with something and to take the stand for it. So instead of going at him in the media, pick up the phone and call him. Because one of the things I did notice when I Googled Colin's name, he has almost 2.4 million people who are looking up this story, because guess what? Now he's taking a stand, and I hope people look at the story more so, not just on the surface level and look at what he did, but they look at why he did it and do some history checking and see why he did it and why he's taking a stand. And I know someone tweeted something, or they sent me a message on Google Plus, and they basically said something about his family. I guess he's black and he's white, and the reason why he did it is because he's mad at his dad. And we can make assumptions all day long about why he's doing it, but why can't he do it because he is standing with the hundreds and hundreds of people that we know about, because people have cameras now to know that police brutality has always happened, and it's been happening probably for the last since the 1970s and the 60s. So this is not a new issue. And I think people are fearful because they're afraid of what will happen if other players start taking a stand. So address why you have an issue with someone taking a stand for something and then you're against it. I think people need to take a look at themselves and figure out, why am I against him not standing up for the American anthem? Like, really be curious about it and really try to figure out why, because it is what it is, and the issue isn't going anywhere. But I think one thing is that we don't know enough about our history, and part of our history is slavery. Unfortunately, it is what it is, and no one's saying that you are racist or you are someone who is against what's happening. We're simply saying, take a look at what continues to happen. And if no one ever takes a stand, it's going to continue to be the same. And by him standing up for it doesn't mean that he's against people who actually served this country and lost their lives. Because again, I think when the issue happened with Dwayne Wade and the ESPYs, and he actually stood up, he was like, just because I say I'm for Black Lives Matter doesn't mean that I'm against police. So we have to stop perpetuating this thing that the media wants us to perpetuate, which is, if I stand up for something, that means I'm against the other thing. And that's not what this is. This is people happen to stand up for what they believe in, and that doesn't mean that you're against anything. So I just had to add my 2 cents with Vikings Alex Boone saying that it's a lack of respect. I think it's a lack of respect for you not respecting his decision and understanding where that decision is coming from. So best of luck to you, and for people who fought for this country when we were considered not property and we were considered people. My heart goes out to you. But when we were considered property, I can't say that that's something that people don't understand, why people have a right, because we weren't considered property. So I think we try to detach ourselves from that and say, oh, that doesn't happen anymore, but it does. And that's why Colin chose to sit down.